Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Hannah and this is part 2 of a series I'm currently working on in which I'm comparing and contrasting the difference between every single season of every single SKAM remake. Part 1 is already on my channel. If you want to check it out, we go over all of the season 1s, aka the Ava seasons, and in this video we are going to be going through technically the season 2s, sometimes the order gets changed, but all of the Noora seasons. I'm sorry this video took so long for me to get out. These do take quite a while to research and write and edit and everything, but also, as you can tell by the completely different background, I moved and was actually moving during the filming of my last video, so kind of bad timing on my part, my bad. I was also waiting for season 2, aka the Noora season of SRAM to complete so that it could be included in this video. First off, a few disclaimers. I do not have every single difference between every single season jotted down here. I tried to get most of them, at least the ones that I thought were of note, but if anything slipped through the cracks that you think was worth discussing, feel free to comment. I think I did a pretty good job of getting big picture though. I also want to disclaim that I, of course, only have the personal cultural perspective of one of the remakes, SKAM Austin, as I was born and raised in America. I try to keep cultural and political differences and things like that in mind when I watch every one of the remakes, and definitely do my research when needed. But if there's anything I missed, anything you have like a fun personal perspective on or something you want to note, again, feel free to comment it. Also, one final disclaimer I wanted to give is that I don't necessarily love this season. It is definitely my least favorite of the SKAM seasons, and that has continued to be the case in every single remake. Unfortunately, I think there are some really great plot lines in this season that are handled very well, but specifically the character of William, honestly, is problematic in a way they never quite adequately grapple with or represent. It's kind of hard to put into words. I think you'll understand once we get into the specifics. You'll see which things I'm really not liking. I just think it's quite problematic, and of course, since we're supposed to be critical of media in general, that's very important. And also, since SKAM is actively still airing, like season 2s are still coming out, I think it's really important that we call out things that could be fixed or improved upon for those audiences in the future. I just know that this season is a lot of people's favorites. It used to be that like you couldn't critique it at all, and I do hope we as a fandom have like come past that and can see what is so clearly wrong. But if you are a big lover of this season, I ask you to keep your heart open. Hopefully you'll understand where I'm coming from. I think it'll become pretty clear, but I did just want to get that out of the way. I hope that the next few videos will maybe be a little more positive than this one, but again, there are still some things I really love, and those will definitely shine through in this. But yeah, you are not going to catch me defending any of the Williams, most likely. Actually, you might catch it a bit, but yeah, it's shocking how awful his character still really is, and I would never let any of my friends tolerate those things from a man, specifically a man that's supposed to love them, like someone that is supposed to like this Noora and still for some reason treats her awfully time and time again. So yeah, I guess on that note, let's get into it. I assume if you're watching this video, you've at least seen the first season of the original, so I'm going to do a quick summary of that for anyone that hasn't, or just for a refresher, and then we will get into all of the remakes. So season 2 of SKAM opens up with Isaac making out with a woman as Noora and Ava continue to keep his secret that he doesn't actually even know they're keeping. Meanwhile, Ava and Jonas are not dating and are trying to be friends, but that's something that falls apart as her jealousy gets the best of her and she finds out that he goes down on third years and not her. Noora quits the Rust group over a tanning sponsorship, but also admits that she was really only there to make friends anyways, which she's now done, so the group is kind of just like idling all season. We learn about Noora's unique living situation as she lives with 2 older roommates, Eskild and Lynn. William is still sending Noora creepy text messages, despite him still having a weird fling with Vilde. There is an iconic scene where someone, I believe Noora, says, "I would never touch him and you shouldn't either." Should have been the moral of this season, but alas, it is not. Throughout the season, Sana is also having a conflict with her sister-in-law, and there is some religious and personal tensions between the two. Noora goes on a date with William in exchange for him not talking to Vilde anymore, and while on this date, William leaves abruptly to go beat a bunch of guys up. apparently. Noora attempts to skip a party that they're all going to. Noora attempts to skip a party so that she can avoid any speculation on her and William's relationship, but shows up when he finds out that he has made Vilde cry over yet again expressing that he's not interested with her. She ends up getting stranded at this party because Ava takes her phone and keys and decides to spend the night with William while they kind of break each other's walls down a bit and get comfortable, but she does leave the next morning before he can wake up. Nothing really happens. We then get like a whole cabin episode where the girls just like have a lot of fun antics. Vilde and Noora talk about food. Isaac gets outed by a Ouija board. Just fun stuff, of course. The penetrators have an auction where they're auctioning themselves off for money to pay for like, I think a hotel room, a cabin they destroyed, and the top prize, like a date with William. So the girls are going to that. At this party, William tells Noora that if she doesn't like him, she should just say it, which she does, but then she runs after him anyway, and they finally kiss. Noora spends the night at his house, where she says that she will not have sex until he's married, to which William says a bunch of creepy stuff about. She then meets William's brother and is abruptly kicked out of the house by William. This causes some tension between them through the next few days. He like aggressively traps her in a room and is like, I was doing it because he just broke up with his girlfriend and he's sad and would hate to see us happy. And that's the excuse he's going with. But they get back together, and then at a bus party during William's Rust week, he ends up smashing a bottle over a guy from another school's head, which freaks Noora out again. She yet again wants space between them as she grapples with the violence that she has now seen William inflict on another individual and what that might mean for their relationship. During this break, Noora tells Sana that she is with William and attempts to get her advice on what she should do specifically regarding the violent situation, and we get a great perspective on Sana's religion. She also tells Vilde, who is shockingly okay with the situation. Noora goes to apologize to William and make amends, but he is not at his house, rather his brother is, who's throwing a party, and while at this party, Noora becomes intoxicated and is assaulted by William's brother. She does not know what has happened to her. She is like Googling and attempting to reach out to people to try to put the night back together while falling into a depression and isolating herself from William and her friends. She eventually tells her friends what happened, goes to the doctor, and gives William's brother a child predator smackdown, one of the greatest scenes in the show. We then get one of the worst scenes in the show where William confronts her and is like, I heard you cheated on me with my brother. And she's like, that's not really what happened. And he like leaves her crying on the floor. She's like sobbing, like, please listen to me. I'm really scared. I don't know what happened. And he just like throws her to the ground. And then it's like, I'm moving to London. So he's gonna fuck off to London and just leave her to suffer, I guess. I'm sorry, guys. Maybe I like this season even less than I let on. Oh my god. Okay. Anyways, Noora meets with a girl from the party who further explains what happened and luckily confirms that not much did to Noora, which makes her feel a lot better. She also finds out that William's sister died when they were young, which is leading to his everything, I guess. Noora finally gets to explain to William what exactly happened and apologizes even though she doesn't have to, and he is still going to leave anyway, but at the last minute, while she's again sobbing alone on the street, turns around and is like, we're back together. There was also this like subplot of the girls getting questioned about the fight that they witnessed and William being held legally accountable for that, and he decides to turn himself in the end, and the girls like band to stay silent. A whole legal subplot. And at the end, Noora and William throw a party. They get together at this party, if you know what I mean, and we get a quick glance from Isaac wearing a belt that we had seen earlier in the season when Noora chastises Eskild for letting someone stay in their storage space, indicating that that someone was Isaac, the next lead of our next season. So that was a brief recap of season 2. Again, I'm assuming you've at least seen like this original season, and can like fill in the blanks of my explanation and like know what's up. But that's that, and let's get into the first remake, SKAM France. So SKAM France season 2 follows their Noora, who is named Manon, and as I mentioned in the last video, SKAM France season 1 and 2 were filmed back to back, and are incredibly similar to the original. They're pretty much shot for shot remakes, so there isn't too much that's different about this season. The Rust replacement in this season for the girls is still the party. They're trying to throw just like a party, and for the boys, specifically the older boys, it is the Raptors basketball team and their impending graduation. So similar to the original, in which Noora doesn't really care about Rust anymore, Manon just doesn't really care about the party anymore. She's like, I just wanted friends and now I have you guys. So that plot kind of fades into the background of this season. Manon overhears Lucas arguing on the phone and says that she is there for them, and straight up is like, you can move into my apartment if you need. This season establishes a lot more of a friendship between Manon and Lucas directly. Charles is straight up mean in the scene where Manon is like, I'm scared that you fought that guy. He is kind of proving her point, essentially. He's not very much different other than that, but just very aggressive there, so much so that I had to like specifically note it. So Manon also tells the girls what happened to her at her birthday party, which is devastating because in the Norwegian one, she kind of speaks her truth at what is like kind of like an Independence Day. I believe it's like a national holiday, but this one it's her birthday. It's so sad. And I also just wrote Manon is the GOAT. Honestly, she is just a very well-spoken character throughout this entire season. In the original, Noora sometimes kind of struggles to speak her mind, which is totally valid and totally fine. And that definitely happens with Manon some points in this season. But she, like, honestly is just a very smart, well-spoken, well-thought-out girl. And I really respected that. I liked what that did for the plot, even if it was a little different from the original. And again, she still has her kind of like emotional, weaker moments that are actually just made better by how strong and confident she is a lot of other times. So that's pretty much all the differences. Now I'll go over some pros and cons. A big pro I have is that everyone has really good chemistry. Like this whole cast has really good chemistry with each other. I know the actor that played Manon and Charles were dating at the time this season was filmed or went on to date. I'm not sure what their status is now, but that was the case at one point. And honestly, you can really tell they have a lot of great chemistry. All of the friends have a lot of great chemistry. It's just a really good group and a cast, and it's very easy to tell that when you watch. Kind of building off that really good chemistry and something I mentioned before, Manon and Lucas's friendship is also really furthered in this remake and solidified in this season, which I love. It is great. Obviously, looking ahead a little bit, we know this has really, really good payoff, but the build up here was awesome and definitely something that's like really easy to know. And I just really love that. It's really good to see. And I really like what they did with like that pairing in particular. My final pro is that I just said it's so similar to the OG that if you like the OG, you will love this, but that leads into a con, because if you are like me and you don't love this season of the OG, then you probably won't like this. I don't think it really has any substantial enough differences to change the mind of anyone looking to have their mind changed after the original. It's a pretty much one-for-one remake, which again, could be great for you. Personally, was not for me. I also noted that it really started to drag. Season 2 is already one of the longest seasons in SKAM, and this one was as long, if not longer. And I hate to say, you really started to feel it towards the end. You kind of just get trapped in this time of peril where everyone's like fighting and Manon is just like sad and there's just like no development being made, which is granted sometimes happen in life, but other shows, other seasons, other remakes of this exact season did not seem to fall into that same lull. So it was pretty telling when this one did. So yeah, overall, pretty one-for-one, not much to say there. That is SKAM France Season 2, the Manon aka Noora season. Now let's cover SKAM Italia Season 3, which is their Eleonora aka Noora season. This was the first remake, but not the last, to swap up the order of specifically Season 2 and 3. Don't quote me on this. I believe their actress was just unavailable when it came time to like film their second season, so they just swapped it. I don't know if that was actually the case, but she is not present in their Season 2, which is their Isaac, aka Martino season at all. So I'm pretty sure she was just absent. So This one is season 3, and that does have some changes that we'll get into, but honestly, the plot for the most part remains the same. Their Rust replacement is the radio show. That is something that was established in their season 2. That is what it's kind of like the drama club, or just like the club that they're all doing in the original season 2, or season 3, I'm sorry, that they're like blackmailing Isaac into joining. Like Sana is like blackmailing Isaac to like participate in this club because of the weed. So that was what's happening there, but instead they were doing a radio show, and that radio show is still the present figure in this 3rd season. So starting with differences, this season opens with kind of like a season 1 like montage with all these feminist facts. I believe it was a piece that Eleonora was doing for the radio show, and I really liked that. It's not really like an important change or anything, but I just thought it was kind of fun, especially again in the way that it kind of works against the season 1 montage. Because we already know that Martino is like out and proud, there's none of his like secret in this season. In fact, his beautiful love interest is just like present through all of it, which is really fun. So instead we are watching Giovanni make out with a new girl, and that plot is kind of like increased a bit. Basically just like more of Giovanni's love life drama, because Martino isn't having any, luckily. Similar to the original, they get a tanning sponsorship for the show that Eleonora does not agree with, but instead of in the original where this like actually becomes like a breaking point, nothing changes here. She's just like, Sylvia, you rascal, and they move on, which I guess again kind of makes sense, because by this point they are so established as friends, and also this radio show is something bigger than them. They can't all just like drop the radio show because like other people are counting on them, and it's an activity they're actively participating in. So she just like gives up, which, okay, sure, whatever. Her roommate, Filippo, of course, again, we got to know him a lot in the last season, but he is Eleonora's brother, and I think they have actually a pretty good brother-sister relationship. They have some really good fights that feel very, very real, and I really like the way they set that up. And because, of course, we as the audience all know that he is gay, as do all of the characters in the show, there is no scene where Eleonora tries to set him up with Sylvia to get her away from Eduardo. Instead, they try to set her up with a boy squad member, Elias, which I thought was like a cute change, and in fact actually felt kind of more genuine than what they were doing before. This note is like more of a general note, but it's one I couldn't help but ignore. When Eleonora and Eduardo are talking, half the time it's set up like a fucking horror movie. There's this one scene I'm thinking of where they're like in a hallway, and he is literally like this looming figure at the end of the hallway, and she's like cowering in fear on the other side, and it's like dark, and like the camera's like really close. It is like textbook horror movie shot for what is supposed to be, I believe, like a tense romantic scene. It is so scary, and they do it a lot, and I can't imagine that's what they were trying to do, but there are scenes between the two of them that are straight up horror movie like. It is so weird. They turn the cabin into like a half episode thing. I found this is something that a lot of remakes do. No one's getting outed via Ouija board, things like that. Maybe for the best, but also kind of a bummer, because that's such a fun girl squad bonding episode that you don't really get to see play out in full. The scene where Eleonora stays over at Eduardo's place is also like a little bit nicer. Like both of them just seem like way less tense. It's very nice on both of their ends, like so nice, like I even noticed that it was a lot nicer and calmer. There is one part though, again, a horror movie ass element, where instead of like in the original where Noora sings to William, Eduardo sings to Eleonora, and he plays the guitar, and he plays Creep by Radiohead. He has this girl at his house knowing she has no way to leave, and he plays Creep by Radiohead to her. Oh my god, I was so scared. I was so scared by it. I was so scared for her. She stays after this happened and gets together with him after this. I can't fathom it. It was so bad. The fight at the party also ends up being between Martino and some homophobes that Eduardo kicks out. So like, rare Eduardo slay, I have to admit. They then have this kiss. It's like so dramatic. They're like in the rain, and there's like huge music, and it's crazy. It was cinema. And then the day after the kiss, when they're like laying in his bed talking, it is again a more sweet scene. Eduardo is very much just like pretending to be a douchebag. It's clearly like part of a joke between them, and he does a really good job to make it clear when he's joking about being an asshole and when he's actually being an asshole, which somehow makes him a little more likable than the other Williams, because at least like half the time he's only joking. He is not the other half the time though, so. And his apology after he kicks her out of the house because of his brother's presence also feels a lot more genuine. Maybe this guy's just a really good actor, I don't know, but I'm giving him a little bit of credit. Okay, good start, good start. Their scene in the car where they both like spill about each other's dramatic past is also really good. Just again, very well-spoken characters. And he is very understanding as to why Eleonora wouldn't trust him. Like when he hears the things she's going through, he's like, oh, that actually makes a lot of sense. Like I get it now, which I really liked the like verbal acknowledgement of, because she makes it very clear that the reason that she struggles to have a relationship with him is because she's always been forced to be very independent because of the situation with her parents and her brother and things like that. She is used to handling things on her own, and it's really scary to end up in a situation where that maybe isn't the case for her. So I really liked the way they like worded that and showed that, and the way he received it. I think that is something all of the Nooras are trying to get at, but it was just like very well stated and represented in this remake, which I appreciated. And kind of building off that, she does like mention, and we delve into some of the issues she has with her brother of kind of having to be the adult between the two of them, despite the fact that she's younger. But that is something that they are like actively working on fixing and have conversations about and have some really good like forgiveness on, which I thought was really sad, but also really sweet, and I think very realistic and well presented. The scene where she tells Sylvia about her and Eduardo honestly falls really flat. This is something I kind of said about last season, but a lot of the friendships are just way less developed in this show in favor of the romances. I think, again, like where Eduardo is better, the girl squad is unfortunately kind of worse. And I think that scene where she tells Sylvie this thing that's been like weighing so heavy on them, that has been like this massive part of their relationship for the past now 3 seasons, it just is like, oh, okay, moving on, I guess. And I think that's just like kind of unfortunate to Sylvia and her character. We then go through a chunk of the show that's like pretty much one for one, but when the fallout starts to happen, Eleonora really gets to tell Eduardo what happened. She gets to take a lot of initiative in the situation that we don't always see her able to take in some of the other remakes. Oftentimes like that is taken away from her, and it is really great. She represents herself very well. He does not. He still just like leaves her crying. So good for her, still shit from him. He then eventually does apologize for being mad at her as opposed to his brother. Like he says that straight up, like I was misdirecting my energy. Still leaves though, still leaves again. Despite all of these like bits of improvement, he's still like, I'm gonna leave your ass crying on the ground and move to London though, I guess. He does, fortunately, or maybe unfortunately, come back, and the rest of the season is pretty much the same as the original, though Fede does end up getting a boyfriend, and they finally officially stop fat-shaming her. It took 3 seasons, and honestly, I don't doubt that they'll slip back into it, but as of now, they are no longer making fun of one of their close personal friends for being fat. So that's a good improvement. Overall pros, I said, shockingly, and despite that last statement, they do learn to be fucking nice to each other in this season. I mentioned it in my last video when I go over Ava's season that like, despite being friends, a lot of these people are really mean to each other, and not in like a fun friend, we're close, we know each other kind of way, just in like oftentimes like racist, sexist, fat-phobic ways. They just like kind of have a mean streak that I feel like comes to an end a lot in this season. Luckily, again, we'll see if it keeps up, but they are a bit nicer to each other, which I really liked to see. I said in my notes, I almost rocked with this couple. Like they were almost good. They had really good chemistry. They made some really good improvements to Eduardo, but we will get to in the cons why I'm not like 100% rocking with them yet. They also delve into Eleonora's issues really well. They just are very clear with the story they're trying to tell with her and what issues she has and how she's feeling about them, which I thought was really great. I think a lot of Noora seasons have kind of an ambiguity, which is also really great because sometimes like you don't quite get it all. Even the things that are really hurting you, you don't quite understand what's hurting you and how to explain it. And I like seeing that a lot in the other remakes, but it was also quite nice to have a remake that was like very clear about what was wrong and why this was hurting her and what she wanted to do to fix it. I thought that was her struggles and her character was presented very, very well. But to my cons, I have to say that all of the changes they made to the plot, especially in light of this being the third season as opposed to the second, just don't really help Eduardo's character. Any development he does make is pretty quickly regressed in order for them to meet the big plot points set out by the original, which is really upsetting because, again, in times when someone that doesn't like this character originally, did start to like him, I pretty much was immediately reminded why that was. As the season develops, it just feels like all of the development Eduardo has made just like completely regresses. Like none of that even mattered because we still end the same way as all the other remakes, which was just kind of upsetting and kind of felt like a waste of time a little bit. I would say that moving this season to be season 3 instead of season 2 works really well for Eleonora and her character, but not really anyone else, again, like I said, with Eduardo, but also with Sylvia, because she was just kind of kept in a lull this whole time. They were like stagnating her character development so that she could help Eleonora when the time came, but then because of that, she was just like sitting there this whole time and didn't really get to develop on her own. She was just kind of laying in wait, which I think was really unfortunate. It also just feels like the development she does get is a little too late, which I think was really unfortunate. And pretty much exactly as I said with the last season, I think a lot of the friendships, specifically the girl squad, are reduced in order to give more to the man and his development and the main romantic relationship, which I just don't think does this show a lot of justice. I think that's a change from the original that I don't really like as much. I would rather see more of Eleonora and her friends than more of Eduardo, especially considering what they used his time to do with that character, which was very little. I think this is a show that relies a lot on the friendships, and I think in Martino's season, which we haven't technically gotten to yet, they do a really good job at like expanding the role of his friendships, and it really sucked to see that not be the case for the girl squad and for Eleonora. So overall, I liked this season more than I thought. I mentioned in my last video, the Ava video, having quite a few issues with SKAM Italia, and I imagined they would really, really impact the way that I saw this season. I very much expected this season to be one of my least favorites of any remake, and I will say I don't think it is. I don't think it's revolutionary. I don't think it makes many good changes to the source material to make me like it anymore, but I also don't think it does anything too much worse. I think the downgrade of Sylvia's character does really affect it a lot for me. It's not my favorite, but it's definitely not the worst. So that was SKAM Italia, and now on to our third remake, SKAM Austin, which is about Grace. So SKAM Austin's Noora season is, again, like the original, a season 2, and this season's Russ replacement is kind of like an amalgamation of things. It's the dance team, it's just like getting into college in general, and also for a few episodes, it's prom. Again, we don't have Russ here or really anything similar, so they kind of just like mix all these together, and I think it does a pretty adequate job of doing so. I did note, though, that we don't once ever see them dance, like despite them being on a dance team, we never actually like see them dance together, and I wonder if that was something they were going to get to. I specifically said I needed like a Dairy Girls ass dance scene somewhere along the way. Maybe we would have gotten it in like season 4, which we're never getting to, unfortunately. I don't know. I think we needed that, and I hope they were building towards it, and I'm sad we never got to see it. So starting off with the differences, there is quite a lot, especially in comparison to the last two. So first of all, Tyler has a boyfriend, as does Shay, which gets like a crazy reveal. So she is also comp-heading throughout this season, a la Isaac. Kelsey is now on the Kittens, the more like superior official dance team that she had been consistently rejected from in season 1. And because of that, the rest of the girls are like, well, we don't really care about the dance team anyways. Very similar to the way they were with Russ. They were like, we just wanted friends. So that pretty much dissolves. And Grace is on the newspaper, which is more her kind of like activity of the season. She is writing for the school newspaper. Grace lives with her cousin. As an American, I was always curious how they would make this work, because I'm not saying it is unheard of, but it definitely is not very common for one of your high school aged friends to be living with older roommates in an apartment. So in this version, Grace is living with her cousin Eve, and they have an aunt who also lives there, but she is just on tour a lot and not super present. So Eve acts as her like older figure. She is a terrible indie lesbian. She seems awful. They're so accurate. It's so great. Like if you know kind of situation with Eve. They also make it so that Eve had gone to the same high school as Grace. She was in the same year with Daniel's brother, and there's this really funny scene where she's like, something tragic happened. Like, I think his sister died. I don't know. Anyways, moving on. It's very funny and very relatable, and I like that, like, that little bit of connection that they add with those two characters. Daniel sends Grace a pic of a dog in sunglasses. I don't remember what they were talking about or why that was included, but that was just a part of a bigger point, which is that they text very oddly. I'm not sure if any of the people on this writing staff had ever seen the way a teenager texts another teenager. But that was a funny picture, so I'm gonna give him that. And Grace owes Daniel a date because she promised him one in exchange for an apology to Kelsey, and they go and see the bats. The bats in, that's so ominous. They go and see the bats. No, they go and see the bats that are in Texas. There's like bats, which I thought was fun. I like bats. Usually he takes her to like an abandoned building. So I thought this was a nice change. Grace skips a party that the rest of the girls were going to in order to go on this date. So when she gets home, Megan is there hiding from her parents, essentially, and they have a really cute breakfast scene the next morning. Tyler and Chris also have like a thing, like they have that weird like secret relationship, but no one really thinks it's a thing because Tyler is like just an out gay man with a boyfriend, so no one's really like thinking of it that way. They're just like weird friendship. It's just kind of funny. I also say they go way hard on Grace being a feminist, and not super in a good way. Specifically, there's a scene where she is wearing a Future is Female shirt, reading like a feminist book, having just finished listening to a TED Talk on feminism. And it's like, we get it. No, we get it. I totally get it. It's like, it's very much the equivalent of a scene where a girl reads like a huge copy of The Bell Jar. Like, they should have just done that, honestly. It's quite funny, but I will admit it does feel a little ingenuine, and not in the way, because that is kind of like what the show is trying to make a point on, of sometimes like women, specifically white women, using their feminism to shield, as like a shield of sorts. But they don't really show that in a meaningful way. They just kind of like make it a joke, which is a bit odd. Megan also realizes that Grace was off on a date with Daniel, but doesn't say anything about it until she is drunk at a party. And Abby actually ends up having to like step in to protect this drunk and endangered Megan, which I really appreciated. We'll talk about this soon, but Abby's role is pretty consistent in this season, which I really liked. But Grace gave Megan her jacket, and when Marlon picks her up, she leaves with the jacket, so she's stranded at Daniel's house, which he does live in with his mother, but he's like, the house is so big and she doesn't care about me, so she's just like on the other side of the house ignoring him, which was again a good workaround for a country / location where like it is not very common for teens to not live with their parents, or at least this particular group of teens. He just has the most deadbeat mother ever, apparently. And we get this absolutely insane fact, which is that Daniel has quit the football team. He was on the football team in the last season, and he is no longer on the football team in this season, which is leading to some of his angst. And the reason he's not on the team anymore is because he got MRSA and almost lost his arm. Like, his arm almost had to be amputated. I don't know if that was a joke. I don't think that was a joke. They do not develop it much, though. They don't really develop that as like a struggle, which what the fuck, because that's really crazy and really traumatic. But yeah, Daniel almost lost his arm, so he's not on the football team anymore. Sweet Jesus. Oh my god. Zoya also has beef with Abby. Mentioned we'd be coming back around to Abby. Instead of having a conflict with like the sister-in-law figure like in the original, she has it with Abby. And Abby specifically at one point tries to tell her that the man that Zoya is like kind of pursuing throughout the season, Zoya has like a little white boy love interest named Hunter, and Abby is like, he is not a good man, do not waste your time with him, and Zoya kind of blows her off. Megan then tells Shay straight up that she's like, I know you're in love with me, and then tries to kiss Shay, which causes like quite a drama. Like, I feel like in the scene where Ava tries to kiss Isaac in the original and other remakes, it's very much just like, Ava. But in this one, it is like a very serious, like, Megan, you should not have done nor said that. And I believe that this is the reason Shay's boyfriend ends up breaking up with her. Once Grace and Daniel inevitably get together, Grace makes that comment about saving herself for marriage, which Daniel is shockingly, like, not weird about. Usually this is a time when William makes it clear that he does not respect Noora's boundaries and is going to try to push them in the future. But here Daniel's just like, damn, all right. And I don't know if that's like the Texas boy in him, maybe, but okay. And after Kelsey catches or is told about their relationship, she is like rightfully very mad. She is a lot more upset about it than some of the other Vilde remakes are. Zoya gets nominated for prom court, prom subplot. They like do a dance, a season fair. After Daniel gets into a fight and goes to talk with Grace about it when she's upset, she says the thing that I have been waiting for a remake to say. She says, "What are you gonna do when you're mad at me, huh? Are you gonna hit me?" I'm so fucking glad that this remake put that into words so clearly. It makes me so mad that other remakes have not, because that is what that conflict essentially boils down to. That Noora is scared that her boyfriend is being violent to other people, because does that mean he's going to be violent to her? That is such a valid question. That is a question young women should absolutely be asking themselves and their partners when they exhibit behavior like that. I am so glad that the Grace said it, and I understand that people her age might not always have that language or be able to make that realization so clearly. I totally understand and respect the way that other remakes have shown that complexity, but I'm so glad that this remake finally said it, because that is, again, that is exactly the issue with William's character, that he is so violent to everyone else around him. Why would we ever believe he wouldn't be the same with Noora? Why should we ever believe that he wouldn't be that way with her? And I am so glad that the Grace said it, and I am so glad that we got to see Daniel really register that and be like, holy shit, yeah, that is kind of fair. Like, he has a moment where he's like, whoa, I wouldn't, but yeah, wow, great point. Thank you, SKAM Austin, thank you, Grace, for this. Like, genuinely, I think that is so important. I literally quoted it. What are you going to do next time we fight, huh? Are you gonna hit me? Yes, that is the epitome of the conflict here. Thank you. Oh my God. I am just so glad she said that. I think that is such an important point for this show to be making, and that it's a damn shame that this is the only remake to have said that so clearly. And honestly, the only remake to really have said it, period. Abrupt switch over to Jo. In Jo's world, she is making out with Boy Jo. Instead of Boy Jo and Megan having a fling, Girl Jo and Boy Jo have a fling, which is kind of fun, but she is also having a little fling with a guy named Damien online. Grace and Kelsey make up, and Kelsey says another great line that is very much the antithesis of like the Vilde character and her struggles in this season, which is, I wasn't crazy, I was just being used. I really, really liked it, seeing Kelsey have that moment of self-reflection and give herself that grace. We don't really get to see Vilde have that moment a lot, because yeah, she has her tough moments, but at the end of the day, she was absolutely being used by a guy she just really wanted to love and trust. And I'm really, really glad that, again, Kelsey allowed herself that grace and that it was said. I think it's really important for viewers to see, because that's kind of the point that all these remakes are getting at, but sometimes it's really nice to hear someone say it just like so plain and clear, like, oh yeah, and I wasn't totally at fault for that. Because she wasn't, so good. Marlon also tries to address Ava's drinking issue. This is something that is in the original, but not really pointed as a negative, which is that after season 1, Ava kind of develops a drinking habit. Sometimes it's played lighter and more fun, but sometimes it does get a little more problematic, and that is the case in this show. Marlon is really concerned about it and tries to express those concerns to Grace. And Grace is kind of a bitch about it, validly so, because she's like, you and her are hooking up again, which, yeah, they are. I guess Marlon, who has a girlfriend, is again cheating on that girlfriend with Megan, so that's now happened twice. So Grace is obviously really kind of upset about that, but also maybe not the time and place. But that is establishing this drinking issue as what it is, an issue. The role of the article that Grace is writing is also really like stressed. Like, that is something from the original that Noora is asked to write this article, and she's struggling with it, but like the role of it as a stressor is highlighted a lot more in this remake, especially because we see her doing the newspaper a lot more. Zoya gets rejected by that shitty hunter guy. Abby was right. And then Grace breaks down and tells them what has happened to her with Daniel's brother while the girls are prom dress shopping, which is so sad. But then they're sitting on the grass and there is this beautiful country music cue, something I never thought I would say. Like, I'm not really a country music fan. Beautiful country music cue is not something I'm saying a lot, but it is great. It is scenes like that in which I like really agree with their reasoning to set the American remake in Texas specifically. Moments like that are just like, were really beautiful, a really beautiful moment of girlhood, a really beautiful American moment, very rare. Just shout out to that scene. Always a great scene, but I think this one handled it really well. And the girls are way more encouraging of Grace telling Daniel. They are like, you should tell him, you should talk to him, you should go to him. And she tries to do it, but that is obviously very hard for her. When he does eventually confront her about what has happened, he doesn't drop her on the floor, but he like confronts her in the middle of the schoolyard and everyone's watching them, and she throws her phone on the ground and smashes it, which I really liked. I liked that outburst as opposed to like his outburst and like leaving her on the floor crying. I still think it's shitty that he just like confronted her like that and ran away, but I do like seeing that moment where Grace kind of like loses her composure and just like totally freaks out. I think that was totally understandable and honestly kind of refreshing to see. She then confronts the brother at the top of the next episode, which I do mention, it's kind of confusing to get from where episode 8 leaves off to where episode 9 begins. That was kind of a weird moment in this timeline they were constructing. But yeah, she confronts the brother after that. And he says, like, it's a scary time to be a guy, you know. It is the most infuriating scene ever, of course. But she handles it so amazingly. He also gives her more of the answers that she's looking for than that, like, girl figure that we see in other remakes. Though, she will still be coming up, as we'll discuss. Grace then goes back to Daniel and she specifically says, I'm ready to talk now, period, because she is the one that should be given time and space and grace. But I'm like, yeah, that is so valid of her to be like, okay, now I'm ready to open up about the horrible things that have happened to me, because that happens on my timeline, not yours, quite frankly. He still does not listen. He still just ignores her, of course, though. So we also don't see really any of Kelsey's issues. I'm sure you've heard I have not mentioned them once, and that's because they don't really come up much. Other than her issues with Daniel, she's not doing much else as a character, unfortunately. Grace then misses the deadline for her article. Daniel does not complete it for her. He does have still a really great scene where he comforts her through a panic attack. That is one of my more liked scenes in the season, actually. I think he's pretty good in that one, but he doesn't complete the article for her, which I really like, honestly. I think it was kind of nice to see Grace have to take a step back on something and not succeed in the way she's used to as a very successful, independent, strong character. I liked that message a lot more than having him finish it instead. An anonymous account of one of Clay, who's Daniel's brother's friends, I don't think I've said his name ever, sorry, his name's Clay, because of course it is, reaches out to Grace and is like, I have some answers about that night. And they talk a little bit and sympathize with each other. It's quite a sweet scene, actually. Zoya and Abby then mend their ways through their season-long beef. I said this with Abby and Megan in the last season. Their makeups are so good and so teenage girl and so realistic of they've been fighting all season. And then they finally realize, wait, this is so stupid. And they make up and they move on. And it is so good. It's so realistic to how those conflicts oftentimes play out when you're a high school girl. And I just really love it that they were both oh, wait, we were just being strong, independent, bad bitches. But we realized the problem is not each other. It's the men. We're good. We're back at it. I really liked that. And I'm really sad that we won't get to see more of that relationship in future seasons, specifically if Zoya would have gotten her own season. Daniel is still going to fuck off to nowhere, but he's just planning on going to New York for the summer. Grace then tries to literally chase after his car and stands in front of it, which good for you, girl. Stand up for what you believe in. But why does it have to be this man? Believe in something else. Pick something else. Oh my God. It's so painful watching her literally stand in front of that car. Stand up, girl. Let him go. He is not worth this energy, I promise you. Daniel also does have to go to court for that fight he got into, but the other girls are like not involved in it really at all. There's like no plot of them being like called in as witnesses or anything. And Grace does kind of do the Noora thing where she like tries to get the other school to like help, but Daniel just confesses anyways. Shay and Megan then make up and mend their friendship, as do Marlon and Megan. They set them up so well for a third season. Breaks my heart, actually. That band, that group, the band, all of them would have been so interesting in a season 3, a full season dedicated to them. Oh! They also then make like a whole thing where they like joke about being class of 2020. So sorry. I'm so sorry to those girls. I was class of 2021, so I do unfortunately get it. And it's haunting that they don't know the horrors that are ahead, truly. We then have a scene where Joe mentions to Grace that she is mad at Grace, essentially on Kelsey's behalf. She is like, it's great that Kelsey and you made up, but like, I'm Kelsey's friend, and the way you treated my friend was really shitty, which I think was so valid. I love the way Joe was given more of her own time in this season, especially a plotline like that. I think that's so valid and so realistic. She's totally, I think, right to be mad, and I like the fact that something like that was included. Zoya's locker is then spray painted. It happens pretty late in the season, and it again just is not connected to her and her story in the same way the original is, but it is treated like a very serious ideal. They treat it for what it should. They are like, this is a hate crime that was just committed against Zoya, which is really sad, and again something I think we were probably going to like see more of and then just never unfortunately got to. Kelsey just like is doing great, I guess, and Marlon and Megan are back together, but their last shot is him being like, he like takes the drink out of her hand and is like, wait, I thought you weren't drinking. So like, trouble in paradise. Also, that is a big difference. Usually Ava, so Megan in this case, and Marlon, aka Jonas, do not get back together in that way so officially, especially not at this time in the plot. So that was something really unique, and I liked that tension they were setting up between them. Joe's boy then drives 4 hours to meet her, which is like kind of scary, and she has a moment with Grace where she's like, fuck, this is really scary, and they kind of like make amends and she goes to her guy, which is like really cute. We get a scene between Shay and Eve, in which Shay is like very obviously crushing on Eve, which was a lot of fun. And we also see that Tyler is the person with the green nail polish. That is something they were setting up throughout this season, that Tyler is the person that Grace is talking to that was also at Clay's party that night. So instead of a new female character that they often introduced for that role, it was Tyler, and Grace just didn't remember because she was blacked out or for some reason, I think. But yeah, we see his green nail polish and we get confirmation that he was there that night and obviously has suffered some pain of his own, either from Clay or for someone else. So that solidified kind of his role, what would have been in the next season, even though he's not the Isaac character. Like people often try to make it seem he is not Isaac. He had his own thing going on, but I thought it was really unique the way they like tied him into the story like that. Like I would have never expected that, and it was done very well and was very interesting, and I'm really sad we didn't get to see more, because if you're not obviously aware, SKAM Austin did unfortunately get canceled after this season. I believe the actor that played Shay has now transitioned, FTM, so shout the fuck out. I don't think that was much of the reason that the show got canceled. I think it more had to do with not great ratings and views on top of the pandemic. As I mentioned, they were supposed to be class of 2020. Other remakes also had to address and handle the pandemic, but I totally understand if a show that kind of was not performing well and was on Facebook Watch of all places decided not to fight through the production stress and problems that was inevitably going to cause. It is really sad though, because I think it set itself up so well for a really unique season 3. I mean, just the fact that it was going to focus on a woman of color lesbian, like that was already amazing. But then they had a lot of great stuff going on with Tyler and Marlon and even Megan that I would have really, really loved to see. And I'm really, really sad we're not going to, honestly. That cancellation hurts me a lot more than I thought it would, even though it's something we very much expected, considering I honestly think the show almost got canceled after season 1, but Still hurts. It still hurts. So overall pros of the season, I would say the show, this remake, is very brave. It makes a lot of really, really big changes. It does a lot of unique stuff, as I was kind of mentioning. I think they take a lot of risks that other remakes really didn't, and I really like that. I think most times it pays off very well. I think they have a really, really strong like ensemble cast that I really liked, and whenever you kind of felt like, oh, this is very different from the original, they would do something that would like take you right back to it, which always kind of honestly really impressed me. I think I talked about this in my last video, but I think people are often way too hard on SKAM Austin. I think SKAM Austin is kind of doing the epitome of what a remake should. It stays very, very true to the original and the spirit of it while adding so many different things and specifically altering itself to fit its locale very, very well, which I really respect. And obviously maybe that's something I just catch on more to as someone that like actually lives in this country. But I think you guys are too mean on SKAM Austin. I still didn't like Daniel though. I never said that, but I would say a pro and a con is that they took us there with Grace. Grace did and said a lot of things I have been begging and pleading for a SKAM remake to say, and I'm very glad she said it and said it in the ways she did. I liked her role a lot, but I would say they did not really take us there with Daniel, even in scenes where he wasn't like as bad as the original. That was kind of just it. He was just like never as bad, but they never really did anything like good with him. He was very much just kind of like And my last pro was the one I already talked about, which is that it set itself up so well for a third season. And it did so without really taking away from season 2. I never felt like season 2 was being bogged down by things they were setting up for season 3. In fact, I think a lot of the things they were setting up for season 3 that were in season 2 were enhancing it really, really well. So it's really sad that they didn't get another season. I didn't think I was so sad about that. Like, obviously I was sad. I've been sad about that since it happened, since the show did get canceled. But upon rewatching it specifically for this reason, for this video series, like, has made me realize just how good we could have had it, and it is very sad. I would say cons, like I mentioned, that con about Daniel just being kind of not really taking us there. Kelsey also really was reduced this season. We basically don't get to see her ED struggles and thus Grace's ED struggles at all. That's for the most part cut, as is really any of Kelsey's things. She has that bit where she's mad at Grace, and then there's the bit with Joe where she's mad on Kelsey's behalf. But yeah, she really does not have a plot line in this season. She is a character that was significantly reduced, which I think should never be the case. I think there should always be like more of her character, especially in this season, than less. So that was really sad. Like, not only was Kelsey's character and struggles reduced, but that also in turn reduced some of Grace's. So it was just a double negative, honestly. I'm quite upset about that. I think this show never quite figured out what they wanted to do with Kelsey. And I would be interested to see what would have happened with her in season 4. I don't know what they would have done with her in season 3. I hope something really unique, maybe setting her up with a potential like 4th Boy Squad member or something. Because she also doesn't really have like a romantic arc in this season at all. I don't know, and quite frankly, we never will. So that is all for SKAM Austin on that note, and quite literally, that is all ever for SKAM Austin. So now, it's on to DRUCK. Season 2 of DRUCK follows Mia, and the Rust replacement is the Obby group. Essentially, their graduating class and all the stuff they do for it, and like the group that puts those things together, kind of similar in a way. So the season starts with Kiki and Alex just macking it in the parking lot, and we come to find out that Alex is actually repeating a year. He has not graduated with the rest of his class and now is a part of the same class as Mia and her friends. Mia is a lot more open about her family issues with Hannah. We even see her a little bit later in the season spending Christmas Eve with Hannah and her father, while Alex spends Christmas Eve with Sam and his family. Hannah and Jonas, on the other hand, are not really friends at all. Instead of him having this like finding a new girlfriend plot in this season, he is just in peril, honestly. He's just like really sad and really struggling the whole time. He is not having fun. And Hannah feels kind of like guilty and a little responsible for him, but also like not her problem at all, really. Alex is also not creepily texting Mia. A lot of their tension is being played out in person through like arguments they're having. They also really ramp up Kiki's eating disorder and Mia's concern for it, which is really good and really important, but also really devastating. And Mia goes on a date with Alex, just like straight up. There's no song and dance about it. She's just like, you need to break up with Kiki. He's like, go on a date with me. She's like, fine, end this. He also does not leave that date to go get into a fight. And on that note, the like Isaac, William, Jonas, Chris, weird guys subplot doesn't really exist in this version because this shows Chris. Sam has already graduated. So amongst other things, there really is not that whole thing happening. We also see Mia and her parents talk a lot more. We see them talk on like FaceTime and stuff and get in a lot of fights and see just how they don't see eye to eye on things. We then get what I think is one of the worst plot lines in any SKAM remake ever, which is where Alex gifts Kiki a plastic surgery voucher for Christmas because they were talking about their insecurities. Mind you, they are in a full-blown couple. They are like dating in this season, and apparently we're talking about their insecurities instead of just like making her feel better or affirming her. He gives her a plastic surgery voucher so she can get new boobs. I remember on Tumblr there being like a debate over if that's bad or not. And quite frankly, if you're not seeing the issue with that, I don't know what to tell you. And may this Lord protect you. But then when the girls are having their little cabin episode, Alex does eventually break up with Kiki. He does it at midnight on New Year's through a voice note, which like, what? He had to like go out of his way to coordinate being that cruel, but chose to do it just for Kiki. What a man. And they all just end up kind of leaving the cabin early for one reason or another, including the fact that Amira's like, I have to get home to do something. So there's a little something going on there with her. She does not have any sister-in-law drama though. That plot, as we see it in the original, is not really featured in this season. After the girls get back from the cabin, a newly single Kiki and the girls go to play laser tag with the guys where she kisses Carlo and then like rejects him. We then see that Amira and Leonie are leading their obby group and helping the rest of the students plan what they're gonna do for graduation and things. Alex joins this group because this is now, as I mentioned, his graduating class and offers to host a like planning session at his apartment. So this becomes that like party that Noora went to in the original to like help Vilde, who was crying, but that's not really happening in this one. Kiki isn't crying because they've already broken up by this point, and Mia also was just like, she wasn't like forced to go because this is something that concerns her as well, so she was just already at the function. But right as she leaves, she realizes she locked her keys in her apartment and texts her roommate to be like, come through. So there's still that whole thing going on. At this party, they also like read off yearbook comments, I believe, about each character and like show them, which is not like a necessary scene by any means, but I really like it. One thing I noted that I really liked about this show, which I guess we could talk more about in the pros, but I'll just mention here, is that they really world build the school very well. Very strong ensemble cast, a very strong school presence. Like you kind of really feel like you're there, like a part of the group and not just this one singular person's story, which I thought was really fun. All of Mia's friends have to leave the meetings to go to their respective plans, so she is left at the apartment and offers to play the piano for Alex in exchange for money, which is iconic. She then gives that money back in exchange for being able to spend the night, which she does, but they sleep in completely separate beds. One of the least creepy versions of this scene, in my opinion. It's actually like kind of fun, dare I say. Whoa. Watch out now, I'm getting a little too positive. Alex is then gone when she wakes up, but he's like left a series of notes, and on the way out, she runs into Alex's sister's ex-boyfriend. And Mia is currently under the assumption that Alex's sister is just away in Bali. Someone in the obby group then plasters nude photos of themselves around the school as a prank, which the group is then fined for, leading to the fundraiser, which again, Mia just like voluntarily shows up to because it also concerns her, and Alex vows to donate any extra money they raise to plant trees on the school grounds. They then kiss, of course, the huge. And the next morning, or the morning later, Alex shows up to Mia's house to bring her coffee and is like trying to instigate like an actual relationship. During this time, girl Sam, who had already had her suspicions about Mia and Alex, catches on to what's going on between them. She also just like voluntarily tells Hannah. There's not like the cute guest thing. She's like just leans into her ears and whispers it in like great shame, as she should feel. We also get this great scene where girl Sam, after she finds out about Mia and Alex, is like, God, why would you do this to Kiki? She looks up to you so much. She like worships every single thing you say. She like looks up to you and trusts you, which is really surprising to Mia and not really surprising to the audience, but is a really like great way to view that relationship and the really like respect and value that Kiki has for Mia. At the party, Jonas is trying to be really nice to Hannah again and tries to kiss her, which she rejects and upsets him. Fuck you for that, actually, Jonas. Mia also has a full like come to Jesus moment before she's able to run after Alex and kiss him, which is kind of funny. We also find out that it was Jonas who played the prank that got them fined, and he is again just in peril, throwing up on the side of the road. There also is no sex before marriage thing in this show. It is just made very clear that Mia is slow and cautious about her relationships. And that is just like, that's what it is. There's no lie needed for it. And it's something that is like respected by her friends and people that hear about it, which I like so much more. I think that's a really great way to handle that plot line of Mia like wanting to take it slow without her having to feel like she has to lie in order for that to be taken seriously. Like she's just allowed to be honest that she is worried and she's slower to approach those things, and has reasons why that no one is really quick to press on, which I really appreciate. Mia tries to tell Kiki about her and Alex while she's working out, but realizes how like upset she still really is about the situation and decides not to. And then when Mia is hanging out at Alex's house, Amira does essentially like the German version of DoorDash to deliver food at Alex's house, which then exposes that relationship to her and also reveals to Mia that Amira has been working a job behind all of their back, and that's why she's been a little dodgy lately, because she's been doing this, and she tells Mia to like keep it a secret from her family because they wouldn't approve of it. So finally, Mia invites Kiki over to her house and makes her dinner to tell her what happened, and Kiki is rightfully very upset, and Mia is like, I will do whatever you want me to do. I'll even stop talking to him. And Kiki is like, that is what I want you to do. I want you to stop talking to him. And she storms out, and Mia goes right over to Alex's house and spends the night with him. So unfortunately, did not do much for herself there. The next morning, they have an experience, not quite sex, but a little something. And then they take a bath in what I have to assume is the biggest bathtub ever, because this very tall man on top of a grown adult woman is like sitting in it. I guess she's not a grown adult woman, but like a fully sized woman is like sitting in this bathtub comfortably. And that stood out to me. And in this tub, they kind of open up about like their family and relationship drama. And afterwards they play like truth or dare, where Mia opens up even more about why she's so cautious with sex and her past relationships. That's not something that's saved till later. She's a little more upfront about it, which again, really liked. I liked that it was on her time, in her way, and it took her some time to get out, but she got there eventually. Kiki comes over to Mia's with soup to try to make up, and then realizes that Alex is there because Mia has now brought Alex to her house, and Kiki catches them and is like, girl, you just said you wouldn't talk to him again, and mentions the thing that's really upsetting her, which is not just the fact that Mia is with Alex, but the fact that she has been consistently lying to Kiki about it. So Mia kind of breaks things off with Alex, but ends up going over when he calls her having a panic attack, and we get actually like a really sad, vulnerable scene of her comforting him through that. And then the next morning, they actually have sex. Okay. If it works, I guess. Kiki and Mia get into a fight before eventually finally forgiving each other. Or I guess before Kiki forgives Mia. And Kiki is basically like, you don't need my permission to date Alex, but you want it because it'll make you feel better about the decisions you're making, and you should probably reflect on that, which is kind of a read and something Mia needed to hear. So period Kiki, and then they're finally, the gang's all back together after that. In the next scene, we even see Mia walking into school hand in hand with Alex, and Carlos and Kiki kissing in the open part of the school. Why can't I think of what that'd be called? Anyways, everyone's happy and in a couple now. Alex takes Mia to watch him skateboard. Super fun. And Bjorn shows up, the sister's ex-boyfriend, and when Alex realizes Mia has met him before, he beats him up with a skateboard, like hits him in the back with a skateboard very violently. So Bjorn goes to the hospital, and during this time, Mia keeps trying to like call Alex to get him to explain what the hell just happened, but he has disappeared. So she goes to the hospital and talks to Bjorn and finds out that Alex's sister is not actually in Bali, but rather she has committed suicide. Alex finally shows up after being away at his parents, I guess, and is like, "You're just as violent as I am, Mia," which is certainly a take. And then when she's talking to Amira about the fight, Amira is like, "Well, we did also get into a fight with those girls last season to protect Hannah," which is fair. That did happen. I will admit they did do a bit of a smackdown. Different situations, I guess. And Amira says a really great line where she's like, "Listen, I don't like him either. I don't know why you guys are doing this, but you are, so you should at least hear him out," which is totally fair. So she goes to make up with Alex, and at the same time finds out her parents are divorcing. So when she goes to Alex's house and he's not there, she actually is able to get in contact with him and set up a time that they will talk in the future. But in the meantime, she leaves with Bjorn and they have like a fun night on the town and they're drinking and laughing and having fun. But it ends when she starts to get really sick and he takes advantage of her in that moment, taking pictures of her and touching himself, effectively assaulting her, and she rushes away. Mia is not working on an article like Noora was in the original. Rather, they both, her and Alex and everyone, just have exams to complete. When Mia is hiding away in her room, Kiki shows up to comfort her and she's wearing glasses, and we get like one of my favorite scenes where Mia compliments her glasses and Kiki's like, "Thank you, I love them." And Carlos doesn't, but I don't care. Growth. It's like, it's just so good to see. I love Kiki. She also admits to her eating problems finally, and with this openness and vulnerability and comfort, Mia is finally able to open up to Kiki about what happened. Kiki makes a great point of like, "If we were suffering like this, would you want us to do it in silence? No, so why are you letting that happen to yourself?" And we unfortunately do not get to see Mia, well, I guess kind of fortunately, because that's a devastating scene. We don't see Mia tell all of her friends what happened to her, but when she goes to confront Bjorn, all of them are waiting outside for her, luckily, and supporting her. Bjorn threatens to report Alex if Mia reports him, and she gets a lot of the answers she's usually seeking from like the third party right there at the table. Alex is not nearly as aggressive as some of the other Williams are when he is sent the photos of Mia, but he still walks away and leaves her alone, visibly upset about this awful thing that's happened to her. But eventually they have a normal conversation where Alex finally opens up about what happened with his sister, with Bjorn, and also admits that he like recognizes Mia was assaulted and that what happened isn't her fault, but still yet again leaves her crying, feeling awful about it, and does not like try to comfort her or apologize for his actions on that. But shortly after we meet David, we get like a 1-second clip of a guy walking up to Jonas to ask him for something. And for some reason we were all like, "That's David, aka the Evan of DRUCK." We just knew. I don't know why we knew, but I remember when this clip dropped and we were like, "That is David. Hey David, hey Evan, let's go." And it was. Love him. Loved seeing him. Hannah and Jonas in this scene also make some progress where she is like, "Hey, look, you're going through something and I'm here for you and I love you, but also like we're not getting back together and you need to get your shit together," which I do think he needed to hear, and they seem to be on good terms after it. We also get a scene where the girls talk about their complicated feelings on Alex and Mia's relationship specifically without Mia there. I believe it's Sam's birthday, which for some reason Mia is not attending because she instead is going to chase after Alex. But all of the girls kind of call out the point of like, "Hey, it seems like there's a problem with this relationship, but also like we want to trust our friend and her feelings. So like we're gonna, but also, which great notice, girls, very, very smart girls. They also find out about Amira's secret job, which she is more comfortable opening up to with her friends about, but still is not comfortable talking to her family about, as they wouldn't support her, or she feels like they wouldn't support her. Mia and Alex finally make up, and the season ends with her kissing Alex and Mateo kissing a girl. So I would say the biggest pro of this season is that Alex and Mia's relationship is quite a bit better than the original Noora and William or some of the remakes, but his relationship with Kiki is so much worse. Like, for every scene between Mia and Alex that is better than a scene in the original, there is a scene between Alex and Kiki that is 10 times worse. So we kind of just break even on his character and its development. And a similar con to like any of these remakes, yeah, no matter what development Alex makes, it is hindered by this just like, for some reason, desire all of these remakes have, at least with this season, to meet some very specific points of the original, specifically him trying to leave her at the end of the season, which just like would not make sense with a lot of the character traits they've been setting up this far. So it's just like, oh, so he does suck, I guess. Sorry, you almost fooled me. It's kind of how it starts to feel. That was supposed to be a pro, but it ended up turning into a con. Sorry, guys. So let's go into the cons now. I will say Mia's assault is treated a lot more casually and quickly, which does have its good things, because it's like great to see a character not super horrifically or heinously affected by this terrible thing that happened to them that isn't their fault at all. So like on one hand, like it's kind of good that she is able to find this strength and kind of overcome in a way that we may feel is quick, but may later find out wasn't as quick, you know, sort of thing. But it just did feel like a little rushed, which is a shame because they spent so much great time developing Kiki's eating disorder, and that's what's usually rushed about this remake. So again, it's a little give and take. They also don't really set up Mateo in this season, which is something I think I've taken for granted since a lot of other Noora remakes like add more scenes with them. There's not a lot of him. Again, he doesn't get that subplot with boy Chris. We don't really see him interacting with like the S Guild at all, or implications that he's gonna like take over Mia's part in her apartment or anything, but it does eventually happen. So this isn't too much of a con once you finally see how that does end up working out, but it is just something I noticed, and it's kind of a shame because I really like the like Mateo, Jonas, Mia, Hannah friendship that is kind of present throughout the show. So that is DRUCK. Despite this being a season that I don't really like, this is still one of my favorite remakes. I love these characters, I love this cast, I love this ensemble, and I love that this show is always trying to do better, even if it does sometimes fail. But they tried. They did the best with what they had, and I still love them, even if I do have my qualms. So now let's move on to the next remake, which is SKAM NL. So SKAM NL Season 2 follows Liv, and the rest replacement for this season is the girls' Talon? Trip. The trip they're having to another country, same thing as was established in Season 1. So the season starts with Liv and Noah getting ready and their routines being compared, and us seeing that they are a little more similar than the two might think. He also keeps showing up to her house. Like in the first scene, he is just like at her front door because he keeps trying to just like walk her to school, and showing up at her house to try to do this. Crazy. The next scene also introduces one of the biggest differences of this season, which is that Amon is not in it. This remake's Sana. I believe the actress was just unavailable. The reason they give for that character being absent is that she has left the country to take care of her sick grandmother, which does seem kind of like a temporary fix. Again, I didn't end up finding out the actual reason, but I do think it was just actor availability. So unfortunately, her character is not present, but kind of fortunately is replaced by what would have been the Lynn character in other remakes, Noora's third roommate. Her name is Ezra. She is also a hijab-wearing Muslim woman and is super cool and fun. I do absolutely love her. I think it's very unfortunate that she was brought into the group due to Amon not getting to be in it, but I like that they were able to do that and still have this like Muslim character inclusion that honestly does feel like very natural and like a lot of fun. Like, she is a really, really great character. Obviously no one can replace our like beloved Sana, but I do still love her inclusion. And because she is acting as a member of the girl squad on top of being a roommate, she also kind of brings Ralph with her a lot, which is the S-Guild of this show. And we get a lot of fun scenes between just the two of them, the scenes between them and the other girls. They are like a really fun, kind of more like friends than just like Noora's roommate, which I do like. It is fun. Liv is very aggressive about Noah and Angle. She's like, you need to stop talking to him. You've got to cut this guy off. He sucks. He's the worst, which is so true, but also then does make it a little tough when she eventually goes to him later in the season. Also, randomly, Jaden of the boy squad, like Kez's other friend from season 1 that notably calls is a slut in the middle of the schoolyard, like plops his bag down in front of the girls when they're sitting on the stairs in school, and it's like, I need somewhere to live. Who's letting me move in? Which is like a crazy ask, but also even crazier that Liv's like, you can move in with me. So he moves in with Liv, Ralph, and Ezra. And we just have a boy squad member living in Liv's apartment in season 2 that is not Lucas. It's so random. But again, it's fun. That's like so much of this season. It's just like, that's really random, but it's not necessarily bad. So like, I'll take it. Also, as opposed to the article, Liv is struggling to submit her music to a record label, and her dad, who is either a musician himself or some sort of industry professional, is putting a lot of pressure on her to do so. Noah is still showing up to Liv's door to walk her to school, and one day Ralph lets him in, which is crazy. And he and Angle are not really in contact throughout this season, but he does agree to come to the fundraiser when she invites him, of course, to see Liv. This show also does not make Ralph pretend to be gay to like flirt with Angle, which I enjoy. Eventually, Liv goes to Noah's apartment to tell him off. I don't know why all these people have each other's addresses, especially people like this who don't really know or like each other, but they do. So she shows up at his front door and is like, you're an asshole, stay away from Angle, and he compares her to Water Lilies by Monet. I think I talked about this in the last video. I love that they present this version of William as like an artistic asshole rather than like a jock asshole, because those types are just as deadly. Don't let him fool you. He might call you Monet, Water Lilies, and still be a fucking asshole, like we see this guy be. And I like that. That's really representation for awful art guys. When the two go on their date and Noah leaves to pick up the phone, Liv just like leaves. She just like walks out and is like, I'm done now. And we later find out that that phone call was Noah finding out his mother died, which is really sad and crazy. The next morning shows up to Liv's house with a big heart balloon in a very cute scene and is like, I know who you're with. You were with Noah, and has now figured everything out. Liv also the next day in the bathroom catches Angle throwing up, and they have a really cute scene where Angle's like, will you braid my hair? And Liv like sits in the bathroom stall and braids her hair, and they just like have this really cute moment of friendship and solidarity that I really appreciated. Liv then goes to Noah's mom's wake at his house. This is when she like leaves her keys behind. She goes to kind of comfort him. He ends up asking her to leave, but she refuses, and she sits with him while they listen to music while he grieves, which is actually quite nice of her. And this is when she spends the night with him, of course. The boys are then doing their auction, not to repay any damages, but just to fundraise for their own trip. And Noah is like, we'll give money to the orphans of Talon if you come. So of course Liv goes. And when she comes home the next day after spending the night with him and sees Izza and Ralph and Ezra, they all just like know where she is. Like, she doesn't lie about a date. They're like, you were with Noah. I think this is also a separate day. I think there might have been like a text conversation that happened in between that we're not seeing or something, but they know. The girls then go bra shopping, which is like just a really cute and fun scene. I know I say that a lot, but this remake truly just does have a lot of very cute and fun scenes, including this one where the girls get to bond. They then go bowling. The girls are bowling in one lane, the boys are bowling in the next lane. Liv and Noah are, bowling at the same time. They leave, they kiss. He gets in a horrific fight in front of her. Liv also actually tries to stop this fight. Usually the Noora just like stands there in shock, which is a totally valid reaction, but Liv does not. She like tries to step in and is like, what the fuck? He also is not a total asshole about her wanting space. Some of the Williams are very like angry and upset about this, but he's kind of like, okay, fair, fine, like do what you need to do. I get it. I beat someone up horrifically in front of you. My bad. And when Liv tells Engel about her relationship with Noah, she is actually really nice about it. She's super understanding, and she says something really kind of sweet and shocking, which is, do you get it now? Which I kind of liked that. Of course, I don't get it. I don't get why they like this guy, but I really liked Engel kind of getting that moment to be like, do you understand? Like, you understand why I've been so crazy? He makes you feel crazy. You see it now. You feel it now. I think that's a really good scene. Everything from here out pretty much develops as usual between Liv and Noah's brother, and it all is revealed when, during her like kind of depressive episode, Ralph asks to borrow her laptop, and when he opens it, he finds her Googling things about how to know if you're sexually assaulted, what to do, those sorts of things, and confronts her. And Liv at first like reacts really angry, and she's like, well, I don't know what happened, like, why are you yelling at me? And he's like, no, like, no one is upset with you, like, I am just really, really concerned. And she breaks down crying in his arms. It is such a sad scene, but very well done. He then invites the girls over so they can all sit with her and comfort her, and she tells her roommates and the girls what has happened to the best of her ability, to which they give her advice and support her. I also really like that in this scene, as well as throughout the season, but you see it really well in this scene, that Ralph and Ezra do really act as like older figures, kind of like the adults in the situation, because obviously their parents aren't around and we're not really seeing them interact with like any teachers or anything. Like, the two of them have those moments where, yes, they're friends, yes, they can hang out and mess around with them, but they also do have some more life experiences and perspectives that they're able to give to those girls in those hard moments. Noah then confronts her in front of the school and leaves her crying on the floor in front of everyone when she's like desperately trying to chase him to explain what happened. It's literally sickening. And also, dare I say, kind of proves her point about how aggressive he is, because he like very aggressively like shoves her off of him and realizes that she falls to the ground and like keeps walking away. So there's then a really cute scene where the girls try on wedding dresses that leads to a really awful scene where Liv wears one of those wedding dresses to go make up with Noah, basically continuing on the joke that like, no sex before marriage, I'm ready for marriage, I'm ready to like marry you and be with you now. And Noah turns her away, leaves her, lets her walk away sobbing, and she's like walking through the park sobbing in this wedding dress before he's like, I'm kidding, just kidding. Psyched you out there, didn't I? We're good, we're together now. So there's even like a part of that scene where he is like chastising her. He's like being so mean to her and like ranting at her, and she like literally can't focus. The audio like cuts out because she is just like so distracted by how in love with him she is that she just like can't even hear it. I think it was supposed to be cute, but it was really painful. Liv then gets a birthday party to end the season off, and Eskil is there, like from SKAM Norway, like he's there and introduces himself to Ralph as Eskil, and they like have a cute bonding moment, and you see him like multiple times like hanging out and having fun. It's very, very cute. I loved that. I know there was a lot of interaction between some of the early Remakes actors, because a lot of them were working on Remakes at the same time, so they got to like reach out to each other and go to cons with each other and stuff. But I loved getting to see it in this, like, actually on screen. And I think it's really cute when you think about season 3 and them saying like all the different universes. Like, I just loved that. And the final scene of the season is them running after the bus to Tallinn, trying to catch it, finally going on their trip. And that is the last scene of SKAM NL ever, because it got canceled after this season. I'm so devastated. SKAM Austin and SKAM NL are probably two of the remakes I wanted to get canceled the least, and they both got canceled. Both got canceled after their second season, before what would have been generational season 3s. Like, I'm gonna get upset if I talk about it, but yeah, I think, like, very cute last scene ever, but should not have been the last scene ever. So some pros of this season: very short and quick season. I think that works very well with the vibe of this particular remake and the stories they're trying to tell. It also is just very refreshing because, as I mentioned, this is already one of the longest seasons of SKAM, and a lot of remakes have just made it longer, and I really liked that this one didn't do that. It also takes things a little more seriously than last season. This one definitely does have like a chill, upbeat, fun vibe with more scenes of that kind of vibe, but it does know when to get serious, when to have the hard conversations, and I do think this season was better than season 1 at like really hunkering down in those moments, like really knowing like when it was time to lock in. Some cons, I kind of touched this out. Some cons, I think I touched on this in the last video, and I definitely did earlier in this one, which is that I think there are some things happening off screen in the text or like on Instagram. So when this season was coming out, it was really fun and really easy to get the full story. But now watching it back without those being so like readily available, or like if you're just like binge watching the season, you're not really like checking in on those. I do kind of feel like sometimes you are missing things a little bit, or things feel a little abrupt, which is not great because the text in Instagrams are great inclusions to this content, but you shouldn't have to rely on them. And I do think there was some times where they expected you would be, but it's not that bad. It really, really is not that big of a deal. Overall, I would say this is a really good season, kept very well with what this show was trying to do and what they had set up from the last season. I, of course, still did not love this William because Noah is definitely more true to the original. Even with his little artsy boy persona, he's not fooling me. And there's definitely some hard moments with him, but I would have loved to see where they would take this relationship as well as everyone else's had there been more seasons. Why wasn't there more seasons? Actually, no, why. I think they like got canceled because they were supposed to host, the Netherlands was hosting Eurovision, and SKAM NL was like publicly funded, so they used that funding to put towards Eurovision, and then Eurovision got canceled because of the pandemic. So then they canceled this show to help fund something that also got canceled. Where in reverse, SKAM Italia actually got more seasons than the original because they held Eurovision, and Eurovision actually happened and brought in so much money that they could then fund the show even more. Which is really sad, especially if you know my feelings on SKAM Italia. So, moving on to SKAM Espana. So this season of SKAM Espana is unique for multiple reasons. Number one being that it is a season 3 as opposed to a season 2. And also it focuses on not only Noora, but also Viri, which is this show's Vilde. It is a joint season. They both get scenes and plot lines, and it was marketed as not just being a Noora season. It was a Noora and Viri season. This was done to kind of, I think, go with what the show was trying to do in general, which was make it a girl squad show. Season 2, which we'll talk about in the next video because it's technically the Isaac season, actually focused on Chris of the girl squad, who was also Isaac. Again, we'll talk about that more later, but that was different. We have Viri included, so all 4 seasons focus on a member of the girl squad, which is very different and tied in with what they were trying to do, which was make this a very like girl power, female focused show. And there is no Russ replacement. One of those differences right off the bat, the whole kind of like Russ concept and a replacement is just not really present in this remake. So the show starts by paralleling Noora and Viri's getting ready and seeing just how different they are. Joanna, who is this show's Evan, is also just a part of the girl squad now because that whole plotline has already happened and she is one of the girls, so she is a part of the crew. And really shockingly, Alejandro, who is this show's William, and Noora are already together. They start the season in a couple, and him quickly breaking up with her because all of his friends have gone to university while he has been left behind, and he just feels like he's not in a place to be in a relationship with Noora. And she's like, it's fine, I'm fine, but she's like, definitely not. Meanwhile, Viri gets a call about a job she had applied for, building off of something we had seen in past seasons, which is that She is struggling financially a bit at home. She starts working at a supermarket, but she hides it from all of her friends. Another big difference, this whole season is quite a big difference actually, so maybe I should stop saying that. But Noora lives at home with her parents in this remake. But Noora lives at home in this remake. She lives with her parents and her golden child older sister. And this older sister kind of takes on the role of what like an S-Guild would have, like the older confident figure in her life. But yeah, she is fully living at home, family dinners, the works. The girls are throwing a party to fundraise for their end of year trip, and Noora's sister says she's going to attend with her friend Miguel, but the sister does not show up, only Miguel does, and him and Noora have a bit of a moment and even leave the party together. Noora has a YouTube channel where she does cover videos and original songs. We've seen her singing in past seasons, and this man somehow convinces her to sing to him alone in a park in public, which is crazy, but okay, girl. And they kiss in a pastry kitchen that he takes her to. Meanwhile, Viri goes home with the money that the girls have fundraised for their trip, and she hears her parents arguing about finances, even saying that they're going to have to ask Viri's uncle for money. So Viri gives them the money, she deposits it in her parents' bank account. Miguel then shows up to Noora's school. He's not a student. He found out where she went from her Instagram, and he shows up there, which is an immediate red flag. And he was doing so he could like give her tickets that he agreed to give her to go to this musical, but then she's like, you should keep one and we should go together, which would not have been my response to that situation, but okay. The girls are then given a discount from their travel agent for their trip, but they need to give her the money ASAP, which of course they no longer have because they don't know this, but Viri has given it away to her parents. Alejandro then tries to apologize to Noora and admit that he was in the wrong, but she blows him off. Viri is then going through hand-me-downs with her mother, and her mother tells her not to worry about money, that isn't something that should be a focus for her in this point of her life. Noora goes to see the musical with Miguel and tries to kind of let him down easy, maybe end the fling they have going on, but when that's happening, she gets a call from her sister who is super panicked. They find her dumped on the side of the road, and Noora mentions that her sister has actually been raped in the past, so she's incredibly protective over her, and the two of them fight, which like severely impacts Noora. Alejandro again tries to apologize to Noora and get back together with her, but he fails and finds out that she is with Miguel. Mind you, they've only been broken up for a week. I was shocked when he gave me that timeline, but you go, girl. The girls then find out that Viri did not pay the deposit to their travel agent, and at the same time, Viri begins having to steal food from work. Chris then finds out about Viri and some of the struggles she's going through and talks about it with Noora, and they kind of theorize what could be going on, which Viri unfortunately overhears. But they do also mention that they know that Viri is lying a lot about her life and the things that are going on in it and trying to paint a better image, and that they don't care because they love her and they respect her no matter what. So even though they know she's lying, they're not upset about the lies, they're just upset that she doesn't feel like she can open up to them. Noora then goes to Viri's house to try to really find out what's wrong, and they get into a fight, and this kind of really enhances the comparison between the two of them, with Viri feeling really jealous of Noora and kind of this great life that she seems to have. Viri's mom then gives her the money back and tells Viri to go to school, but she tries to skip, and her mom's like, no, you need to hold your head up high, you need to face this, which is really sweet and really sad. The girls decide that they're just gonna go business as usual with Viri. They are luckily really understanding of the fact that there is something pretty serious and hard going on. So like, you know what, we're gonna move on. And the boys decide to join the girls group so they can then help them fundraise, and they decide to host like a concert party to do so. Jorge and Noora also decide that they are going to sing at this concert together. Noora and Viri then make up in a very, very sweet scene, with the relationship between the two and the differences they're going through in their own lives, of course, being like the real anchor of this season. Ava and Noora then go to a party with Miguel's college friends, because mind you, he is in college. I mentioned earlier they didn't go to school with them, and that's because he's in college and this girl's in high school. But she loses her virginity to him and trusts him to take some kind of like nude photos of her in bed the next morning, thinking that those would be private between the two of them. Miguel then gets jealous of Noora and Jorge, who are spending time and working together for the concert they're putting on. But Emma, Noora's sister, encourages Noora to forgive Miguel, which he actually does. And then there's more singing. There's a lot of singing in this season. Alejandro, yet again, apologizes to Noora, and they decide to at least be friends with one another. And Jorge and Noora finally perform together at the concert before Jorge turns on Miguel, insinuating that he has messed up Jorge's DJ station. The two get into a fight, and instead of standing by her friends when they ask and are like, hey, your boyfriend did this really shitty thing, what are you gonna do? She instead chooses to leave with Miguel. He then does what he does a lot in this season, which is reference his ex and how poorly his ex treated him in order to pressure Noora into treating him in the way that he feels he deserves. Ava and Noora are really put at odds because of this situation, and even when one tries to apologize, it just kind of makes the situation worse. They just are not able to see eye to eye on this. Meanwhile, in happier news, Viri has a bit of a love triangle. She's, things are hard and she's struggling and trying to work through them, but at the same time, people are really starting to notice how beautiful and badass she is. As they should. Miguel gifts Noora a trip to Rome for her birthday, but continues to talk down about her friends. He eventually gets mad at Noora and ruins her birthday, so she decides to go get a drink with her friends instead. But after, having some drinks with the girls, she wakes up the next morning with no pants on, in bed with Alejandro. She eventually goes to ask him if anything happened, to which he is so offended that she would ever think that, but it's very normal for a woman to maybe fear what happened in that situation. But he says the only reason that he stayed and that he was there in bed with her when she woke up was because she would not let him leave. She held on to him and was like, please stay here with me. But nothing happened aside from that. Jorge apologizes to Noora for being mad at Miguel, who meanwhile is just consistently showing up to her school. And this really starts to make Noora's sister in particular concerned about the way Miguel is treating Noora. Noora tries to admit to what happened on her birthday to Miguel, and he just flies off the handle. He is absolutely irate about it. Meanwhile, Viri is getting the love story she deserves. She is blossoming in a relationship with Hugo. And Hugo has this really cute scene where he's like, I like you. I don't care about whatever version of yourself you want to present. I like you for who you are. Which, again, is totally contrasting the situation that Noora is in which Noora is having to kind of change who she is and what she feels in order to make this guy love her. Meanwhile, Viri just gets it for being herself. She is loved and understood regardless. Noora skips the Halloween party they're having in order to try to make up with Miguel, and he agrees that they can get back together if she cuts off all contact with Alejandro, which is, again, yet another scene that just really contrasts how bad Noora's relationship is versus how good Viri's are. Finally, Noora breaks down. She tells the girls what's happening, that she feels completely trapped in her relationship and that it's not one she wants to be in. So they encourage her to break up with Miguel, and she even finds out that he was completely lying about his ex-girlfriend. She was not as terrible as he painted her out to be, which furthers Noora wanting to break up with him, of course, but she stops before she's able to. And this is because he says that his father has gotten into a car accident and he is just so upset. So she stays and comforts him. She does then try to stand on business and leave his house and break up with him. She says she doesn't want to do it anymore, and he tries to stop her, but she stands true and is able to do it. She then has to reckon with her feminism against what has happened to her, feeling like she was so smart and so educated, and yet this terrible thing was still able to happen to her and what that means for her. Meanwhile, Viri is able to open up to Hugo about her personal life and is getting a lot more comfortable in who she is and what she's doing. Miguel is begging to talk to Noora and threatens to share the photos he took of her if she doesn't agree. Noora rightfully freaks out about this. She tells her friends, who are rightfully so pissed, and they go through all of her options, what she can do, but she worries because she took the photos consensually, which does not matter because she is a minor and he is not. So there was no such thing as consent in that moment. But we just get a really hard but good scene of all the girls sitting together in the bathroom, really weighing their options and really grappling with this terrible thing that's happened to one of them. Miguel, I don't know what I meant by this now. Miguel says he's deleted the photos. So he was like, I'm not gonna blackmail you. I deleted the photos. You can check my phone. I shouldn't have said that. I wasn't ever gonna do it. And then admits he broke a gorgeous table, which I don't know why I wrote gorgeous table. I don't know if he said that he ruined a really gorgeous table or if we had seen the table and I thought it was gorgeous, but I specifically said ruined a gorgeous table. So RIP to that table, I guess. In this scene, Noora is able to finally, once and for all, break things off with Miguel, tell him that she does not tolerate him or the way that he has been treating her and that she never wants to see him again. She also says that he needs to get help. He needs to go to therapy. He needs to get his shit straight, and that she is not the one that can do that for him because he's like, you can help me. I want you to help me. And she's like, that's not my job. That is not my responsibility. And she finally frees herself. Meanwhile, Viri is finally learning to proudly wear her hand-me-downs. And the season ends with Noora getting ready for a women's march and telling her sister what has happened, which is paralleled against Viri going on a really beautiful date with Hugo. We find out that Alejandro is going away. The two won't be seeing each other for a year and a half. So despite the fact that they might be interested in rekindling their relationship, it just unfortunately is not going to work out. Wrong time, wrong place. And that is the end of season 3 of SKAM Espana. So some pros of this season would be the way that they compare and contrast Viri and Noora's story. Of course, in a perfect world, Viri would have gotten her own season. It is so shocking to me that this is kind of like the most Vilde content we have gotten from any of the remakes. I know I and a lot of fans of the OG were always really shocked that Vilde didn't get a season, and the fact that she has never really gotten one in any of the remakes is also very shocking to me. I know a lot of people were really upset about the fact that these two storylines were getting pushed together, and I definitely wish that both of these girls could have gotten full seasons, but I absolutely love what they did with them sharing a season. I think they compared and contrasted their lives so well and told such a great story with that. Of course, the way that Viri has this really great love life or romantic interest and Noora doesn't, but Noora has like a better home life and Viri doesn't. And the way they both compare themselves to each other without realizing that they have more in common than they think, or not realizing that you shouldn't idolize someone based on your perception of them, I think is really, really powerful and was really well done. The girl squad is girl squatting in this season. Honestly, that can be said for the show in general. This is just a very girl squad focused remake, and I love that. But not only are they really great, the boy squad and the scenes we do see of all the boys are also really, really great and compelling. They all just feel very authentic, very natural. It is a really, really good ensemble cast. Another pro is that like the second this season starts to feel way different than the OG, it ties it back in a really, really clever way. While this season does not focus on Noora and Alejandro's relationship, it is kind of focusing on what could kind of be that relationship Noora alludes to in the original as the one that happened before Alejandro. So even though this season might feel completely different or completely removed, the core relationship is actually something that was referenced in the original, and a lot of the things that we're seeing played out are tying back to those themes or moments. Sometimes you'll be watching a clip and you'll feel like, I feel like we're in a completely different show than the original, and then something will happen and you're like, oh no, this is SKAM, this is still SKAM. And I thought that was really, really impressive, and also really showed what these remakes had the potential to do, of despite being so different and following pretty much a completely different character and storyline than this original season, it is still so true to the themes and messages that the season was trying to get across. And while I actually would have really liked to see what they would have done with a more traditional season, like I had even felt before the season came out that it could have been the first one where I might have actually really liked the William remake and the story that he was going to have, I totally respect that they didn't do it. I really respect that they did not want him to be an awful character and realized that some serious changes had to be made in order for that to not be the case. As I've mentioned, a lot of remakes struggle with this. In order to make the William character better, they have to sacrifice a lot of Noora's character or Noora's storyline, and this remake was just not willing to do that. They wanted a Noora season, they wanted a strong Noora season, and they didn't want their William to be an asshole, so they made the needed changes. Even if they were really massive changes, I really respect that, honestly. I would say some cons, though, is that I did still feel like this was a Noora season. She still got quite a bit of time, definitely more than Viri. Viri also does not have her eating disorder plotline at all. though I do think this is maybe replaced with like adequate other struggles, that she still is having a very important storyline, including one that does focus on the perception of like herself and her beauty. So while that is like a really interesting storyline that I kind of would have liked to see, I do understand what they were trying to do with what they ended up replacing that with. I also miss the less traditional home life that Noora usually has. I think that presents a really interesting storyline in a lot of the other remakes that unfortunately just wasn't present here. But I do love Noora's sister and think they have a really good and unique relationship. So I am glad that we got to see that. I also said, like, as an American, like, I get if they just needed her to live at home. I don't know what the over-under is in Spain of kids living with 2 random roommates in an apartment in the city as opposed to their parent. I know here that would not be super normal, so I totally maybe understand if Spain needed to do something similar and make it a little more traditional to the values or lives of the students in their country. I don't know. That could have been a reason. Maybe it's not. But if that was a reason, I definitely understand it. So overall, I really loved this season. Like I said, it is definitely very different from the original, but anytime you feel it's getting too different to the original, it snaps you right back into it. They took such specific niche things from the original season and really developed it into these really well thought out, unique plot lines. I'm of course upset that we didn't get to see Alejandro and Noora's relationship in a more traditional sense, like I said, because I think I maybe could have actually come to like them. But I also respect that they didn't want me to hate Alejandro, so they didn't do things that would make me hate Alejandro, and that essentially meant changing his entire storyline. I think they did a great job showing the really complicated aspects of Noora's relationship. I think it was handled very well. I loved her plotline of kind of having to like reckon with her feminism and her individuality against this really awful thing that has happened to her. I also love the inclusion of Viri. I obviously wish we could have seen more of her. I honestly wish we could have gotten a whole season of her, and I think if anyone was going to give her a whole season, it would have been SKAM Espana. I definitely wish she had more time, but with the time she was given, we saw a really, really great plotline, one that was very unique and very special and very complicated but very heartwarming. Overall, I totally respect SKAM Espana for doing something bold and different. I think that is exactly what remakes should be doing, and we really did not see anyone do it quite like this. So I totally respect that, and I love the way that they were able to tell a storyline that was still so true to the original and what they were trying to tell while still being quite modernized and unique and maybe more in depth. Honestly, yeah, I really, really liked this season, and I am shocked by how true it managed to stay to the original while still being so special and so different. It was an incredibly devastating season. It was really, really a hard watch, honestly, because you have not one but 2 main characters going through really, really hard, complicated things, but the way they're able to come out on the other side is incredibly heartwarming and inspiring. I really, really like it and think they did a really, really good job presenting the message they were attempting to present. The next remake we have is wtFOCK. What the fuck? wtFOCK. I honestly have never learned, and I'm so sorry for that. But this season follows Zoe. It is a season 2, and their replacement is their Free Fest. So differences, number 1, it's only 10 episodes, which I said only 10 episodes, so happy I could cry. I can't stress enough how long this season can be and can feel at times. So when I saw that number 10, so the season starts, Sene goes right up to the girls and Amber and invites them to this party. They need help fundraising for their Free Fest campaign as they are trailing behind and offer the girls to come and help. Zoe drops Free Fest similar to the way that Noora drops Russ kind of in the original, but her reasoning is specifically that she wants to distance herself from Sene as opposed to the fact that she's already like close enough with the girls. And Amber gets really defensive about this and invites herself over to throw Zoe a party to cheer her up. Yana is quite upset with Jans and his sex life in this season. She does not try to play it as cool as Ava does in the original. The two are trying to be friends, but Yana is definitely struggling with that part. This leads to a lot of tension at the party where Yana is making out with Luca, and this causes Jans to almost like start a fight. Such a mess. In the scene where Zoe spends time at Sene's house, no one sings, Thank God. A lot of singing in the last remake. And mind you, it's not bad singing. None of the people in the show have been bad singers. It is just a personal nightmare of mine to be trapped in a situation where someone is playing the guitar and singing at me. Personally. Zoe then literally like gaslights Yana into thinking she didn't spend the night at Sene's house. She's like full psychological warfare to hide this relationship. The boys then do a striptease at their like weird prostitution auction thing. They do a striptease. I genuinely felt like I had to skip this because, mind you, I'm 22. So I was like, I feel like I legally cannot watch this, nor do I want to. It was incredibly uncomfortable. And I felt that when this came out when I was a teenager, I was like, no, this ain't right. I'm not watching it. Amber also does not catch them kissing at this party. Rather, she sees them kissing in his car in the parking lot later. And in order to kind of like pressure Zoe into telling her what happened, she tries to set Zoe up with one of Sene's friends. And it's basically like, well, why can't you be with this friend? You're single, huh? Aren't you? Low-key, just, which is low-key valid. Fair to Amber for like trying to take some sick pleasure out of the situation. I get it, girl. Go for it. I even said that like Amber is like kind of straight up like taunting Zoe for like most of this season. She is like trying to get her to like tell the truth. She's playing like sick games and it's honestly really funny. Yasmina is also observing Ramadan throughout the season and there is multiple references made to her fasting. Amber eventually tries to join the fast, but she of course does it incorrectly and not for religious reasons, so it leads to her almost fainting. To which the girls are like, you have got to eat. This is not for you. You do not need to be doing this. Please eat. Unlike most remakes, this season actually draws more attention to Amber and her eating disorder and her struggles and also her friends' concerns about it. There's also quite a bit of buffer scenes. Like scenes will be extended, little things added on to the beginning or the end before leading into what is pretty much like a shot for shot of the original, which I thought was kind of interesting. The way that they add their own things without really taking away from anything that was already established by the original. After the fight, when Zoe confronts Sene, his speech is fucking crazy. He literally brings up Hitler at one point, which if you are bringing up Hitler in defense of yourself, you are losing the argument. Sorry to say, you gotta reflect. We need some introspection here. And I think that's all Zoe should have said is like, nope, no, cut the cameras, dead ass, you gotta fix your shit. But then he does try to like stop Zoe from breaking up with him. Most of the remakes are just like, fine, we'll take a break then. Okay, and this one's like, no, actually, like, please don't. I want to fix myself, I want to be better, like, please do not leave me. But respects that is a decision she needs to make. The police also literally come to school over this fight. In the original, there is that kind of like legal subplot, and oftentimes that's cut from the remakes, which I totally get, but in this one it is brought up again. The police like show up to the school and are like, we've got to get to the bottom of this fight situation, and the principal even threatens to cancel the free fest. During their break, Sene gifts Noora an iPhone, which is crazy for a high schooler. They also give some of what was originally Sana's speech to Noora about the relationship and the fight and everything to the Eskil character, which is kind of interesting, but I think it works. I think it helps for Zoe to kind of hear the same sentiment like repeated by multiple people that she loves and trusts, and also to hear it from someone that's kind of like older than them and again has maybe more different perspectives on relationships or situations like this than like her or her friends would. So kind of thought it would be weird at first, but I actually like that they did that. After everything goes down with Sene's brother, Zoe comes clean to the girls at a study session, and in the background they have like a timer on to I think either time how long they're supposed to study and then time their breaks and things, and it is ticking throughout the whole scene, and it is like so sickening as she just shares this awful thing that has happened to her friends, and there's this ticking clock. And the girls also get very emotional in this scene. Sometimes in some remakes the girls stay very strong for Noora, which is beautiful, but in this one the girls like really break down, and I think it shows just how young they are, that these are like 16-year-old girls that are facing this really scary, terrible situation, and they're really scared and hurt and sad by it, and it's a very hard scene, but I really liked that they did that. It was very devastating but beautiful, and I liked seeing the way the girls felt so strongly and such solidarity with someone they love so much. After Victor, who is Sene's brother, is confronted by Zoe, he says that he is going to tell Sene what happened, and she manages to like get his phone and intercept it before that can happen. That part of the plot is definitely like dragged out a lot more, which makes me so anxious. After Sene, abandons Zoe in her time of pain and need, his friend Luca shows up to the door and says like, "Hey, whore." I don't know if I was exaggerating or I swear to God he said that. He's basically like, "Hey, slut, where is he? He quit Free Fest. What did you do?" So multiple people are now blaming this poor girl for a situation that she's the victim of, mind you. Crazy ass scene. But eventually he returns to her after driving away and literally leaving her in a parking lot crying on the phone, turns the car back around, they make up, they get biblical, and Sene is actually going to move in with Zoe to get away from his brother. So instead of them leaving somewhere else together, he's moving in with them. Which I think is a little better, I think. I don't think these two should be living together no matter where in the world it is, but at least they're not running away, I guess. He then goes with her to the police station so that she can report his brother, which I think was a really good inclusion and stamp of support from him that he should have been giving episodes ago, but never too late, I guess. And finally, we get a scene with Robbie towards the end where he kind of low-key hate crimes Milan, who's the S-Guild of this. He is clearly very, very upset and aggressive with that certain thing he's struggling with, which sets us up for what will be his season in season 3. So overall, this season was quite similar to the original, as you might tell by these notes, which kind of jump around quite a bit. Honestly, I didn't realize until I was reading the script back just how many chunks of kind of silence I had, just because it's very, very similar to the original. I would say one of the biggest pros of this season is that Yasmina and Amber have way better inclusions. They are very consistently and thoroughly included into the plot in a way they are often kind of cut out of this season, at least in some of the remakes. They're having consistent, productive conversations about her religion, how it's affecting her involvement in it, and also just her as a person. She is very consistently included. And same with Amber. Again, her eating disorder is treated as the serious issue it needs to be. She has a lot more scenes than even the original and is struggling a lot specifically with her relationship with Zoe, which I really liked. Those are two of my favorite characters and I loved seeing them present in this season. Another pro is that Zoe is very frantic and kind of desperate, which is of course very sad to watch, but I really liked it. I think it worked really well for her character of someone that kind of often presents she has it all together and always knows what's going on and what to do. To kind of see her really kind of collapse and spiral really helps add to the gravity of the situation and the severity of what she's going through. And big ups to the actress, she really crushed it. Some cons of this season would say that they just really highlight how bad shit a lot of this plot is. All of the crazy awful scenes are just made even more crazy and awful. Just tough. And honestly, the boys fucking suck. All of them suck. Literally every single male character in the show is really mean, really disrespectful, not very cute. I'm kidding. They are just really, really mean, specifically to the women in their life, and do not have a lot of redeemable scenes or qualities, which is quite unfortunate. And kind of similar to SKAM France, it's so similar to the original that if you like the original season 2, I think you would really like this season. But again, if you're someone like me that doesn't, there really is not much in it for you. It might have better Yasmina and Amber, but again, the boys are on some fuck shit this season. It is so frustrating to watch. Very well made season though. I do really, really love the girl squad in this remake, and that stands true even after this season, and it's definitely going to stand true through the rest. I know that for a fact. So we are finally on to our final remake and the newest season of any SKAM remake to come out, which is SRAM Season 2. So Season 2 of SRAM follows Noora, and their Rust replacement is Krups, which, as I've come to understand, is very similar to Russ, but on trains instead. Not the exact same, but kind of a similar end of high school mobile related party. I will say though, the girls are a lot less involved with that happening than they are Russ. So the season starts with Noora writing a song, and that's something that kind of continues throughout the season. As opposed to her trying to write the article, she is working on completing this song that she's really struggling with. Rocco has helped Tina get a job as a cocktail hostess. She is underage, and Noora is like, hey, shouldn't you not be working here because you're underage? And she's in this crazy dress, and everyone's okay with it except for Noora, who's like, this is not right, which she is correct. That is not right. Get your bag, Tina, but also at what cost? In the scene where they have the S Guild pretend to be straight to flirt with Tina, he puts his all into that performance. He is serving straight. Ava is also trying to maintain her relationship with her ex, very similar to the original, but does not seem as jealous. She has her moments, but is clearly trying to. Ava also does not seem that jealous of her ex. She is trying to maintain a relationship with him, but also recognizes that she does not want to be in. Ava also seems not actually that jealous of her ex. They are trying to maintain a relationship, but she also realizes that she does not want to be in a relationship with him, so she struggles with her jealousy a little bit throughout, but oftentimes recognizes that she's like, that's something I gotta work through, which I really like. I think Ava is displaying a lot of emotional maturity throughout this season. Sarah, who is this Remakes Sana, is also not having any sister-in-law drama. Her involvement in this season is quite different. I think as a friend, it remains very much the same, but as mentioned in the last video, Sarah is Romani. She is of the Croatian traveler community, as opposed to Sana, who is Muslim. So that just kind of creates quite a bit of difference in the way she is interacting with the world and her culture and her religion, as it is just different than what we saw in the original. She's allowed to drink and go to parties and wear certain things we wouldn't expect from a Sana remake, but I do still think it is a very valuable perspective, and I mentioned this more in the last video, but I like the way that they kind of recognized a cultural group and conflict within their own community, and it changed the character to represent that. When Noora wakes up after her tough night with Rocco's brother, she's actually in her own bed with Rocco. She actually even stays in contact with him for most of the time that she is struggling and trying to figure out what happened. He even takes her to get lunch with his brother, not knowing about the history between them, which leads to her kind of running out and having a panic attack. She is really going through it alone, but surrounded by all of her friends. She's not isolating herself in the traditional sense where she's locking herself in her room and not allowing anyone to talk to her. She is still going to school and sitting with them, but she is just so alone and isolated, even surrounded by them, which I thought was kind of an interesting and beautiful way to represent that struggle. Noora even goes to the doctor alone to get tested for STDs and also drugs. We find out that her drink was most likely drugged by Rocco's brother, which caused her blackout, and she opens up to Noora alone at first. After this, she does kind of start to avoid Rocco, and he leaves her a new record player after complaining earlier that the one she had that was pretty broken, wasn't very good quality. Noora then tells the rest of the girls, as well as her roommates, what happened, and they have a really good conversation about it. This scene goes kind of informative for a bit, and they talk about the drug and that she could have been drugged with and its risk and its presence in their country and nightlife culture and the way that they've had experiences with it or people they know have had experiences with it. Very, very good. Again, a lot of emotional maturity from these characters, really being able to snap in and recognize this is a bigger issue that Noora has unfortunately come victim to. Nyx even starts crying, which is so sad. She had kind of mentioned earlier in the season feeling a little left out of the group, people didn't really come to her about things, and she just has a moment where she's really upset and says this is so sick and cruel that this happened to you. And honestly, it really made me tear up when I saw it because it was very real. Again, it really shows you how young these girls are and how awful this thing they're going through is and how they're just really not equipped to handle it, because how could you ever be equipped to handle that? And they all come around Nyx and comfort her in a way that we don't really see Nyx get comforted. We don't really get to see that level of vulnerability from that character a lot. So I really, really liked that moment and the way they were all like came together and shared their perspectives and really stood united. It is a very, very sad scene, but very, very well done. The girls even wait outside when Noora confronts Roko's brother, and after she throws a drink at him, she books it and is like, go, 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 and they all run away together. They then take her straight to the police station where she's able to report what happened to her. Once Roko finds out what happened, he is so mad that he is literally immediately like, I'm going to Amsterdam. Mind you, a few scenes earlier, he got mad at Noora because he said that she was running away from her problems. He was like, you need to confront this, you can't run away from it. So mind you, he's now not confronting something and running away from it. Right. So finally she breaks down and is like sobbing and explains everything to him. She explains her past relationships, she explains what's happened recently. She is like bawling and just dumping everything. And he sees that and still leaves her. Drives away as she's sobbing and like trying to open his car door for some comfort, and just drives right away. All right, okay. No, he does this because he is mad at his brother. Valid, so valid. He should be mad at his brother. I think he should more so comfort the crying girlfriend next to him, but all right, he's mad at his brother, so he goes and fights his brother. Their mutual friend is like, you've got to come, Noora. They're fighting. By the time Noora arrives at Roko's apartment, the two of them have been taken away by the police. So she goes to the police station. Roko is still being an ass and even utters the words, stay away from us. He says that Noora should stay away from them because she's causing so much problems in their life. That's right. That's the takeaway from this situation, Roko. Certainly. Oh my God. But luckily they do make up. She's able to forgive him for that because she is better than I am, apparently. So they make up and are together and miss the train to the Coops thing. So the season ends with all of their friends on the train together, celebrating, having fun, and Lorvo going into, one of the rooms of the train to kiss a girl. Interesting move. He also notably did not really have any presence this season. He didn't have a plot line with like Roko's friends or anything, nor one with Noora's roommates. So we're pretty much flying into season 3 blind. But season 3 has been confirmed. It is not out as of the time of me recording this. In fact, just last week, we got some of the first photos of them on set shooting. So very excited to see what's coming our way. So pros, I would say this is quite similar to the OG, if that is a pro for you. It just flips around like kind of the sequence of events. Sometimes you'll be like, oh, I feel like we've strayed away a little bit. And then you'll be like, oh no, we were just going in a different order, which I think is a pretty clever way to keep things like fresh and unique without really making much difference to the plot. Noora has a really, really great relationship with her roommates. They established that plot line very well, which adds such a great aspect to this season, and I also imagine will lend itself very well to next season. And overall, I mentioned this in the last video, but this is just a really, really made show. The people that are working behind the scenes very clearly care about the quality of this content. There was a lot of absolutely beautiful shots and sequences in this show, unlike anything we've really seen in any other remakes, and I just really, really respect that that level of artistic intrigue and commitment is being given to a teen drama like this. Cons, I would say, they do get a little lost in the aesthetic at times. There is one point in the season where we get like 3 separate entire scenes of like beautiful lighting and Noora crying. Great scenes, beautiful scenes, and I do get what they are trying to do, but sometimes it's like, okay, we got it. We got that. I don't want to see Noora crying alone in the rain again because you've already showed me her crying alone 3 times. It's breaking my heart and it's not doing anything for the plot. So yeah, definitely sometimes it's better than last season. They kind of have definitely worked out the balance between like pretty scenes and necessary scenes. Again, I love and respect that they are giving this show the artistic commitment it deserves. But sometimes that comes at the sake of the narrative, which doesn't really need to be the case. Overall though, I liked this remake. Again, very high quality, great cast, very talented actresses in particular. I mean, all the cast is very talented, but the girl group, per usual, crushing it. It is very similar to the original now, and I'm honestly shocked that a season this far out, like 10 years, probably like 9-ish years out from the original season, is still falling into so many really problematic traps and plot points. It's honestly a little disheartening. I was hoping to see maybe a few more changes to specifically Rocco, his character, and the way he handles things. He goes quite off the deep end, and the harm he does to Noora in the process, I don't think is really adequately addressed or handled. But of course, we're getting a new season soon. We shall see what is in store. I'm absolutely not writing this remake off. I definitely enjoy it, and I'm definitely excited to keep watching it. So everyone, I think that is it. That is every single season 2/Noora season of every single SKAM remake. Thank you so much for bearing with me. I know I had some passionate opinions, but I hope you kind of see where I was coming from on certain points. Again, I think it is incredibly important to critique the media we consume, especially the media we love, so that it can grow and be better for future viewers and creatives and remakes. I know this season is definitely a favorite amongst a lot of viewers and also a lot of creatives and writers. I believe the Noora and William storyline was the first one developed for SKAM, and the reason it ended up being season 2 was that Julie said she wanted to give those characters like more time to develop. So this is a huge plot line to SKAM and its story, and it is definitely has a ton of really, really important parts that I really, really love. I think the eating disorder plot lines and the sexual assault plot lines, while are very hard and complicated and sad to watch, are incredibly important and something that really does need to be presented to teens in teen media, and honestly to everyone. Even me, as someone that's definitely not a teen anymore, still really, really enjoyed a lot of aspects of the season and the way that certain topics were handled. I just also disliked the way other topics were handled. It can be both. I hope you guys enjoyed. Regardless, please like, subscribe, and comment. Comment what your favorite remake is, your least favorite, your thoughts on this season, whether you agree or disagree with me, if you are from a country that one of these remakes is from, how you felt about the way it was portrayed, all that stuff. I really, really loved getting to interact with people in the comments of my last video. That was definitely the highlight of making this so far, so I'm really, really excited to see what you guys have to say about this one. Please, please comment. I'd love to reply. I'd love to talk about it. I think that's kind of the point of these videos. I just like want to keep talking about SKAM. I know it's been 10 years, which is crazy, but I still love this show, and I imagine a lot of you guys do too. So let me know what you think. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'm sure this video was quite long, so thank you so, so much for bearing with me, whether or not you agreed or disagreed with what I had to say. Make sure you stay tuned for the third video. I am definitely going to be doing a video on all of the Isaac seasons / the season 3s. I am already working on it. I will wait because, as I mentioned, season 3 of SRAM is currently in production, so I'm definitely gonna wait till that one has completed so I can include it in my video, but hopefully that'll happen pretty soon. I'll try to get ahead of it so that by the time that happens, I'm ready to get this right out. It's actually really exciting that I'm able to kind of get these videos out alongside active SKAM content being released. That's not really something I expected when I sought out to make these videos, so that's really, really fun. And I'm really, really excited, of course, to see another Isaac season. Isaac season is my favorite of the show. As a queer woman, it was just a huge part of my life and my journey. I've already started rewatching some of the seasons to work on the script, and I love them. I love them, and I have my qualms with them, like I do with this season, do not get me wrong, but it's just one of my personal faves, and I'm really, really excited to talk about it and all of the differences between the remakes in my next video. So make sure to subscribe if you want to see that. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you soon.